In this video, we're going to talk about Nano Dimension. If you're considering buying Nano Dimension shares in your portfolio, then please keep watching this video until the end, because it'll cover many of the factors that should be considered regarding buying, holding, or selling the share. During the most recent trading session, the stock opened at $7.47 and closed at $8.14. The lowest point at which it fell to was $7.45, and the highest point it rose to was $8.18. Compared to the current price action, its 52-week low was $1.31, and the 52-week high was $17.89. The current trading volume of Nano Dimension is 22.3 million shares compared to the average volume of 17.3 million shares. The recent trade volume of Nano Dimension is higher than the average volume, which is caused by the recent price increase of the stock price. This is an almost mechanical reaction from the market, and honestly, I believe that this is an encouraging sign. The stock has been on a sell-off since early 2021, and now it is possible to imagine a scenario where the stock will resume its upward ascension. It doesn't mean that the stock will get back to where it was in late 2020, but at the very least, recover some or most of the losses. Now, let's take a look at the difference between the company's market cap and enterprise value. Basically, the market cap is the sum of the price of all the shares that are publicly traded, and the enterprise value is the value of the company's assets once all the debts are paid off. We can see that the market cap of the company is $2.1 billion, and the enterprise value is $11.9 million. Nano Dimension really has one of the most significant speculation factors across the financial market, because there is a staggering difference between what the market is willing to pay to get a piece of it, and on the other hand, what the company's assets, the tangible assets, are worth. On one hand, it is kind of worrisome given the gigantic gap between the two numbers, between what we can touch and what our mind tells us. But on the other, sometimes it is difficult to pinpoint value on intangible assets, such as ideas and innovations. This is simply a question of how much you're willing to put down to bet on disruption. Personally, I think it'll be a speculation on the speculation. In other words, how much hype do you think there will be over the next few months on Nano Dimension, or even years, while waiting for the fundamentals to pick up? Now, let's talk about the number of shares the company currently has and the shareholder composition of Nano Dimension as of the latest data. The total number of shares outstanding is 256.5 million shares. Amongst the total float, insiders hold 0.01% of them. And we should also look at the percentage of shares owned by institutional investors. In that case, the institutional investors hold 19.3% of the total amounts outstanding. There are 29.8 million shares that are being shorted, which represents 11.63% of all the shares traded. Personally, I find the insider ownership a bit low, because at just 0.01% of the total equity ownership, we can't say that the company officers have a heavy stake in the company. On the other hand, there are very significant chunks of shares that are being owned by institutional investors, for example, ARK Invest, and that should serve as a layer of legitimacy. Once again, it doesn't mean that a stock is guaranteed to skyrocket, but at the very least, it serves some degree of guarantee that it won't collapse overnight. If we look at the short and long-term price actions, I believe that the stock shows a recent spike of interest, especially after the announcement of ARK Invest to get a stake in the company. I think that the recent sell-off is now behind us, and it's a matter of time before the stock will pick back up, as long as willing to wait for it. On the long term, I would say that the conclusion is even clearer regarding whether the company is worth buying. The company has been so much higher at one point, and I believe that considering the historically low price at the current stage, The price has a high probability of getting higher than where it is. However, the position should be structured in a way so that we can afford to wait a few more years without hurting the portfolio. To sum it up, I think that it's worth the while to have a modest position in Nndm just in case the company takes off. My maximum allocation is 3% of your portfolio, and my price target is between 30 to 50% from the current price point. The last element to consider is the overall market sentiment of the financial market. The current reality is that investors and money managers are not willing to blindly follow companies to throw in their money anymore, unlike 2020. There are many reasons why investors are now shying away from the innovative and disruptive stocks. Some will say that they were overpriced, or that they were overbought, or that they were relying too much on selling dreams. But the real answer is a much simpler one. At one point, people began to lock in their profits and unloading the shares, which created a significant crash in the company prices, not really because they're all crooked, but because they just had more sellers than buyers. That triggered a torrent of sell-offs from February of this year to nowadays. The overall tendency at the moment is that those stocks are now bottoming out, but investors are generally speaking more skeptical, and only the companies with robust financials or ideas may survive. Thank you for watching. If you like my content, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.